Hi friends, welcome to the Bible Project Daily Podcast. We're in day 258 of our journey together through the Bible, chapter by chapter, verse by verse, and we're in part 189 of our working together through the book of Genesis. Now today I'm going to be closing off this passage of Genesis chapter 4, where we've been looking at the natural and the supernatural work of God. Now, I'd like to conclude our time together in chapter 4 by trying to spell out what I believe are some of the main points that this chapter, the writer of this chapter, Moses, under the Spirit of God, the main things that he would wish us to grasp hold of. Number one is that Abraham believed the Lord. And that's the whole reason for this story in the book of Genesis to begin with, is to demonstrate that simple but clear fact. God had promised Abraham that through his descendants he would spread widely throughout the world, and in order for that to happen, clearly his son Isaac now had to have a bride. Abraham believed that God is going to provide that bride, so he sends a trusted servant out to find a bride for his son. Now, one of the things we need to see in this passage is the faith of these people, this group of people who are all individually trusting the Lord. The second thing I believe we need to see is that God was faithful to the promise that he made with Abraham. He'd given him the promise of multiple descendants, calling them like the sands on the seashore or the stars of the heaven at different points. And this means, of course, that his one and only son has to have a bride. So God, as well as the people being obedient, God himself will be faithful and provide that promised bride. And this leads me to my third and final point in the sort of direction of travel I've taken through this chapter, and that is the way that God brings this about. And on this occasion he does it quite simply through natural means. There's no great supernatural miracle involved here. There's just a group of individual people who are all individually obedient to the call of God in their lives. Rebecca doesn't parachute out of the sky. He did it by simply having Abraham's servant meet her at a well. Now, God does sometimes work supernaturally, of course, but God often, more often, I believe, works through entirely natural means. And I believe that happens much more frequently than a lot of people realize. I believe that when we are trusting and praying, and most importantly believing, that's when we will see God being most likely to fulfill his promises in our lives. I'm tempted to say if you're not married and you're seeking a partner, this chapter provides a template of really all you have to do to find that partner. Now, that would be the most direct application of a passage I think I've ever suggested. But it tells me you can just pray, say, Lord, I need the right person. I've got a few ideas, and this is what I'm praying for. But then let God providentially bring you to that right person. It may involve him changing you to such a point that you are now able to recognize the right person in your life when they come along. That's how he did it for me anyway. I don't know how many times in my life I've had believers come to me and say, you wouldn't believe what happened to me this week. God really answered my prayer, and it happened in the ordinary circumstances, in the everyday of their lives. Usually, often through ordinary people, and how he brings them into our lives. You see, there's no such thing as an accident in the plans of God. And that's the main thing that I want you to put in your pocket and keep close to your heart as we exit this chapter 24. It is simply this, is that God can work through normal, natural means, and he is most likely to do that when we just simply trust in him. When we are praying or when we are trusting in him, he will work things through for us in our lives, most often in the most natural of ways. The other day, as I was doing some housework, I had a Christian radio station on in the background, and I heard two things talked about within minutes of each other on that radio station, but they really struck me. Firstly, there was the testimony of someone who said that they believed God had called them to leave the UK and travel to Africa and pray for the miraculous healings of people there. He believed that he'd been particularly called to go and lay hands on the blind and pray that they might see. Then shortly after that, probably no longer than half an hour later, there was a second article, and it was talking about what are called the mercy ships. These are ships who travel. They fill the ship with medical supplies and equipment, and Christian doctors and nurses travel around the world, and they call into the ports of developing countries, and in partnership with local people they bring people to the ship. One of their ministries they carried out means that in a single day they can perform 300 cataract operations in one day, enabling 300 blind people to see. So here's the message, friends. In all things, pray and believe the Lord. And then God will providentially bring people into your lives, and you will be able to see Him perform miracles and answer prayers in your life. And don't be so focused on looking for the supernatural to miss the miraculous that God is doing in the natural every day. Okay, that's it for today. We'll be starting off a new chapter next time. Quick reminder, of course, if you'd like a transcript of roughly what I've said in these podcasts, there's always one available in the audio version of audio version of this podcast. And if you happen to be in this small group of people who watch the videos, then there should be a link there to the audio version in which you'll find the transcript and the scriptures in the episode notes. But that's it for today. So thank you for joining me. I'll hopefully see you right back here tomorrow or the next day, whenever that is for you, as we look at our next chapter together, chapter 25. But other than that, I'll say bye-bye for now. Bye.